This is one of the games from Season 1 of the Squid Game series. In this tug-of-war game, a team of strong men faces a weaker team consisting of men, women, and older adults. By simple logic, it's clear that they won't win. However, Oil Nam, an old man who is revealed to be the organizer of the game at the end of the series, provides a key factor that could help them win: information.
그리고 사람을 배치하는 게 중요한데 줄을 사이에 놓고 한 명씩 오른쪽.
They then put the information into practice, turning it into knowledge. This knowledge was helpful at the beginning of the game, but the key to their victory was the instincts of participant 218, Choi Sang-hoo. He asked his group to move 3 steps forward, which surprised the opposing player and caused him to fall. This surprised the opposing player, causing him to fall. They finally won. This instinctual knowledge is called implicit or tacit knowledge. It's important to understand that there are 2 types of knowledge: explicit and implicit. Implicit knowledge is often called tacit knowledge. Explicit knowledge is easily communicated. Implicit or tacit knowledge, on the other hand, is knowledge in the brain that is difficult to articulate or formalize. For example, consider typing on a keyboard. If you were asked to list the order of the letters on the keyboard, many of you would not remember. Yet, you can still type fluently. That is tacit knowledge.
I don't explicitly know where every key is on my keyboard, but somewhere in my brain or body, I must know where they are because I can type fairly accurately.
Tacit knowledge is based on experience and the time it takes to learn and practice. Therefore, it becomes the determining factor in any game. For example, consider playing against a more experienced or better player. Interestingly, AI learns this human tacit knowledge. AI learns through approaches such as machine learning and deep learning. Although AI's tacit knowledge is not currently completely human-like, we can imagine what that would be like. We can imagine this through AI-themed fiction films. In simple terms, one way to explain the development of AI to resemble human intelligence is using this pyramid. Everything starts with collecting data, which is then selected to become information. This information is continuously studied until it becomes knowledge. Finally, it becomes wisdom in decision-making. This process is referred to as intelligence.
Artificial intelligence is basically trying to simulate with a computer something that would match or exceed human intelligence.
Ironically, as AI continues to advance, many of us are becoming trapped in a sea of information, often becoming addicted to it or to social media. Many of us are still overwhelmed by data because we cannot distinguish facts from hoaxes. Former social media practitioners say that an AI disaster is already happening. It's not happening through robots like in the movies, but rather through AI algorithms on social media.
We now have every single day an AI, which is a very simple technology, just calculating what photo, what video, what cat video, what birthday, to show your nervous system to keep you scrolling. But that fairly simple technology was enough to break humanity with information overload, addiction, doom scrolling, sexualization of kids, shortened attention spans, polarization, fake news, and breakdown of democracy.
This AI algorithm is used by online games and gambling sites to keep you playing. Its impact is significant. In fact, it is so severe that in 2022, the World Health Organization, WHO, included gaming and gambling addiction in its classification of mental disorders. So, are humans currently controlled by AI? Perhaps it's not because AI is getting smarter. It's because we are getting stupider. Therefore, guys, prepare yourselves because we are entering a time of cruelty that could drive you crazy.
It's all fucked up. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Information technology is one of the most advanced technologies of this century. It has evolved from morning newspaper flyers to smartphones that can access information from all over the world in seconds. Some even call this the information age. However, few people know the man behind the rapid development of information technology. His name is Claude Shannon, the father of information theory.
Who's Claude Shannon?
Who's Claude Shannon?
Claude Shannon? You're asking me this question?
I truly believe he's at the same level as, let's say, Newton or Einstein.
If you value the fact that your iPhone can contact and call for you an Uber, and then place a phone call, and then text a friend, and then check your email, all of those things you owe to Claude Shannon and his work.
In his 1948 journal, A Mathematical Theory of Communication, Shannon first introduced information theory. Like the theories of relativity and quantum mechanics, information theory radically changed the way scientists view the world. Before its existence, no one thought information could be encoded and compressed for more effective storage and transmission. Picture, music, and video can be converted into a series of compact codes without losing its essence. This is where Shannon introduced the basic unit of information, the bit, short for binary digit.
Shannon's big idea number one, convert all information to bits.
In addition to being considered the most influential thesis of this century, his master's thesis is also notable for its contributions to information theory. He proved that Boolean algebra could be used to simplify relay settings, solving a major problem in telephone automation at the time. Before his discovery, an operator was needed whenever someone wanted to call another line. His thesis laid the groundwork for digital computing and circuits.
So his master's thesis is considered the most important master's thesis of all time. And he writes this at the age of 21.
He is also considered one of the founding fathers of AI. He invented the Ciscius machine, one of the earliest examples of AI.
I'm Claude Shannon, a mathematician here at the Bell Telephone Laboratories. This is Theseus. Theseus is an electrically controlled mouse. He has the ability to solve a certain class of problems by trial and error means and then remember the solution.
Considered to have a unique personality, Shannon was a mathematician, cryptographer, and electrical engineer. Unlike other mathematicians, he was not born a genius who could quickly calculate multiplication numbers.
He couldn't do mental arithmetic any better than the average person. And if he had two numbers to multiply, 26 times 42, he'd go on the blackboard 26, 42, and do long multiplication, which was, you'd think he would just be a numbers genius. No, he was much bigger than that.
Shannon was more of an artist. He loved playing music, reading storybooks, and brain games like chess and the Rubik's Cube. He was the first person to create a chess-playing machine. His love of games inspired him and his friend Edward Othoff to invent a machine that could predict roulette game outcomes.
I built this with Ed Thorpe, who was a professor here at MIT.
For those unfamiliar with it, roulette is a casino game in which players bet on the outcome of a spinning wheel. Players place bets on numbers on the betting board. Then, a ball is thrown onto the wheel and lands on one of the numbers. If the ball lands on the number on which the player has bet, the player wins. With the tool created by Shannon and Edward, players can now predict which number the ball will land on.
The computer would be in my pocket, and these little wires would run down my pant leg into my shoe. And there was a little switch in there that I operated with my big toe. And then these went up to a little loudspeaker in my ear. And the computer would send one of the 8 musical notes of the scale to mark the octaves in the wheel. Ed had a little loudspeaker in his ear too, and I operated the computer, and had placed the bets and pretended he didn't know me.
Its high level of accuracy makes this tool illegal to use in American casinos. Nevertheless, many consider this tool to be the world's first wearable computer. This marks the beginning of the creation of the Walkman, the iPod, and the smartwatch that you wear every day. Unlike Shannon, who likes to create gadgets, Edward Ossoff is more interested in calculating opportunities. One of his famous books, Beat the Dealer, became a Bible for card counters. He was even nicknamed Professor Blackjack. Inspired by his book, students at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, formed a card counting club called the MIT Blackjack Team. This club's success in winning large sums of money at Las Vegas casinos finally attracted the attention of Hollywood producers, who made a film entitled 21 in 2008.
9 still plus 12. Blackjack.
For those of you who aren't familiar with it, blackjack is a card game played against the dealer. Whoever has a card value above the dealer's wins. The value of each card is based on its number. The closer you are to 21, the better. If anyone has a card value above 21, they automatically lose. That's why this film is titled 21. This film tells the story of Ben, a genius student. In order to continue his studies at Harvard Medical School, he needs a lot of money. He has the option of getting a scholarship, but he must create a fascinating story about himself to receive it.
You need to really explain to us what makes you special. What life experience separates you from all the rest. What can you tell me, Ben, that's going to dazzle me?
Unfortunately, his life as a bookworm was boring. One day, however, his lecturer, Mickey, recognizes his genius.
I wouldn't really care. I mean, my answer's based on statistics.
Exactly. Mickey invited Ben to join the card counting club that he founded.
We play better.
He joined to raise money for his Harvard tuition. Using Edward Olthoff's book as a guide, Ben continued to practice card counting. He wasn't too worried because card counting wasn't illegal in America, since it required a high level of skill.
Counting cards isn't illegal.
So there's no danger in it at all?
No, Ben, it's safe. Very safe.
Even highly intelligent MIT students need to practice at least 4 hours a day for 6 months to truly master it. They also work in teams to improve their card accuracy. However, this only applies to blackjack, not other gambling games, especially slots.
This is real world-class money-making business. Kiana, slots are for losers.
Although it is legal, casino bookies in America hate card counters. They hire special agents to hunt them down and do not hesitate to torture them. Ben experiences this in the film.
It is.
Ben finally decided to stop gambling without receiving any special funds. In fact, it was his adventures at the casino with his friends that amazed Professor Hartford so much that he received a scholarship.
How's that for life experience, Professor? Did I dazzle you?
The MIT Blackjack Club eventually disbanded because many of its members were banned from casinos. Many also burned out and chose to continue their academic careers. Even so, many people think that the club still exists today but operates in secret. You might be wondering how they work together to count cards. To make it easier to describe their collaboration process, we will use the DIKW pyramid model. Data, information, knowledge, and wisdom are abbreviated as DIKW. Data is the foundation of the pyramid and contains a collection of raw facts, numbers, or symbols that do not yet have meaning. Data becomes information when it is given context, organized, and processed so that it has meaning. After both exist, knowledge arises when we understand and can analyze patterns. At the top of the pyramid is wisdom, which is the application of knowledge to make the right decisions. Although there are many developments and criticisms of this model, experts still use it because of its simplicity. All right, let's get back to card counting. The counters are divided into two groups, the spotter group and the big player group.
Our team is divided into two kinds of players, spotters and big players.
Spotters collect data on the cards played by the dealer. They play with small bets while counting the cards that come out. Meanwhile, the big player will appear later. Their job is to drain the dealer's money with large bets. They will only play at the table if the spotter gives them the code. The code is as follows. This means that the cards on the table have been counted and the big player can enter. The spotter will communicate the collected data through a code.
Sweet! So sweet!
This code will provide information to the big player. The big player will then process the information based on his training over the past months. Despite the various pressures and distracting noises in the casino, big players must stay focused on their calculations and make wise decisions to win.
9 still plus 12. Blackjack.
They often win, but sometimes they fail because they let their feelings and emotions influence them. They are more like gamblers than card counters.
You had very clear instructions and you didn't follow them. You didn't do your job. You weren't counting, you were gambling.
This is because gamblers place bets based not on information, data, facts, or calculations. Gamblers often feel knowledgeable when they actually aren't.
How they see gambling is in many different ways. They think that they have a set of skills. A slot machine, for example, they have superstitions. They may think it's a hot machine, a cold machine. They may bring Granny's jumper with them. They may wear their favorite football shirt, and they think this is going to influence.
So, what exactly is knowledge? Many philosophers have offered their definitions of knowledge. In general, however, knowledge is defined as awareness of facts, understanding individuals and situations, and having practical skills. In this case, knowledge is divided into two categories: awareness, or knowledge, and skills, or intelligence. This is why knowledge management experts often categorize knowledge as either explicit or implicit. Explicit knowledge is easy to communicate, as demonstrated in this video. Tacit knowledge, on the other hand, is difficult to communicate or teach. This tacit knowledge is what was previously called a skill. A common example of tacit knowledge is the ability to type quickly on a computer keyboard. You know what you are going to type, but if you are asked about the order of the letters on the keyboard, you may not know.
I don't explicitly know where every key is on my keyboard, but somewhere in my brain or body, I must know where they are because I can touch type fairly accurately.
Another example of tacit knowledge is riding a bike or playing a musical instrument. One of the main characteristics of tacit knowledge is that it cannot be taught to humans. It takes time to learn and practice. If you can't ride a bike, watching a YouTube tutorial won't make you able to ride a bike. You have to keep trying until you can.
Crouchy, yeah!
Michael Polanyi first introduced the term tacit knowledge in his 1966 book, The Tacit Dimension. Other experts, including sociology professor Harry Collins, have continued to develop the understanding of this knowledge, as discussed in his book, Tacit and Explicit Knowledge. In this book, Collins divides tacit knowledge into three categories based on how difficult it is to teach: weak, medium, and strong. Weak, or relational, tacit knowledge can be explained explicitly, but doing so takes time and resources. For example, a chef can immediately discern the quality of food just by smelling it. However, this knowledge is difficult to transfer to others. Students must practice and gain experience to reach that level. The same applies to skills in other fields.
This is part of the reason why experts do not necessarily make great teachers. The expert has some tacit knowledge, something that's bottled up in their mind that isn't getting transmitted or passed on to the student.
The second type is intermediate or somatic tacit knowledge. This type of knowledge is tied to the human body. Examples include fast typing, balance while cycling or driving, and musical or athletic ability. This tacit knowledge concerns the relationship between the body and the brain. Therefore, we must practice it repeatedly so that our body parts become accustomed to it. The last one is the most difficult to explain explicitly to others: collective tacit knowledge. It is related to how we deal with the social conditions around us. Examples include a person's ability to joke or understand sarcasm, as well as public speaking. This skill is often honed by becoming a stand-up comedian or negotiator. Another example is driving a car on the highway. In addition to knowing how to drive, we need to be aware of the dynamic conditions around us. This includes people crossing, other vehicles overtaking us, and traffic signs. This collective tacit knowledge is often considered the most useful, especially in an era of frequent change. The Squid Game series is an extreme example of this, as the game only produces one winner, which causes the dynamics between players to constantly change. Each player must carefully determine when to make friends and when to fight. It is also important for them to understand the situation and conditions of the game in order to overcome the challenges. For those of you who have never watched it, Squid Game is a series that tells the story of Sung Gi-hoon, an unemployed widower and gambler. He is in a lot of debt until he finally joins the Squid Game. Besides luck, Gi-hoon's tacit knowledge is useful for getting through the game. For example, in the Dalgona candy game, all players must separate the shapes carved into the candy. They are not allowed to break the candy outside of the outlined shape. Gi-hoon got an umbrella-shaped candy, the most difficult shape, and he won by licking off the excess candy. His sweat dripping onto the candy led him to the idea of licking the candy to separate it. Using his knowledge of the situation, Gi-hoon managed to separate the candy in time. Interestingly, he also met his childhood friend, Choi Sang-hoo, in this series. He is smart and a graduate of a famous university. However, due to his debts, he also ended up joining the Squid Game. In the tug-of-war game, Sang-hoo's knowledge was key to victory, even though the opposing team was strong. Meanwhile, his team consisted of only weak women and old men. At the beginning of the game, the old man, Oil Nam, used his explicit knowledge to help them match their opponents. In a desperate situation, however, Kang-hoo saw an opening and told his team to take 3 steps forward. This caused the opposing team to slip, which eventually led to their team winning. Sang, whose collective tacit knowledge also helped him win other games. Although it seemed cunning and manipulative, it was the best way for him to survive. He eventually made it to the finals and dueled Gi-hoon. After a fierce battle, Gi-hoon ultimately emerged victorious. However, he declined the prize to save his childhood friend.
He's giving up the prize money right here at the very edge of victory.
Returning to the DIKW pyramid, we see that knowledge can lead to wisdom. Gi-hoon is an example of a human with wisdom. On the other hand, Sang, whose manipulative cheating shows that having a lot of knowledge does not necessarily lead to wisdom. Interestingly, experts often fear this about AI development as well. The more knowledge AI acquires, the less likely it is to make wise decisions for humans. Many consider this threat to be very serious. In fact, in 2023, Nobel laureates and AI experts signed a petition urging the world to prioritize the risks of AI. They asked that the world treat the threat of AI the same way it treats the threats of pandemics and nuclear war. Like humans, AI needs to learn in order to gain knowledge. These processes are referred to as machine learning and deep learning. An easy way to understand how AI learns is to observe the robots at Google's UK lab. They aren't programmed to kick a ball, rather, they are programmed to continuously learn how to score goals. Unlike us, they tirelessly learn. Their tacit knowledge naturally increases rapidly as they continue to learn. This is further compounded by their access to vast amounts of data and information.
So AI has developed even faster than I thought. In particular, they now have these AI agents, which are more dangerous than AI that just answers questions, because they can do things in the world. So I think things have got, if anything, scarier than they were before.
Ironically, while AI continues to advance, many of us are trapped at the lowest level: data and information. This is because many of us are often misled by incorrect facts or hoaxes.
Sorry, coronavirus. Nobody knows anybody.
Although the data is accurate and informative, many of us are trapped in a cycle of consuming information and are addicted to social media.
When we engage with social media, it releases our dopamine reward pathway, lights up the same part of the brain as drugs and alcohol. It's incredibly accessible. We have 24/7 access to this particular drug.
Even former social media practitioners say that the AI disaster is already happening. It's not happening through robots like in the movies, but rather through AI algorithms on social media. These algorithms are designed to keep us engaged and prevent us from leaving the screen.
So we now have every single day an AI, which is a very simple technology, just calculating what photo, what video, what cat video, what birthday, to show your nervous system to keep you scrolling. But that fairly simple technology was enough in the first contact with AI to break humanity with information overload addiction, doom scrolling, sexualization of kids, shortened attention spans, polarization, fake news, and breakdown of democracy.
And you're effectively playing against this artificial intelligence that knows everything about you, can anticipate your next move, and you know literally nothing about it. That's not a fair fight.
Research in America shows that social media addiction reduces our desire to develop tacit knowledge.
They're much less comfortable taking risks. The rates at which they get driver's licenses have been dropping.
This AI algorithm is also used in online media, including online games and gambling sites. The goal is the same: to maintain retention, or how long we play games or gamble. However, many gamers disagree about whether gaming and esports are the same. They argue that esports have the same goals as other sports: achievement and professionalism, rather than recreation alone.
Esports is esports and gaming is gaming. You might sit and play video games all day, and that will not be esports. Esports is actually competing in an environment which is structured, which has rules, which has competition.
In a 2020 documentary film titled Not a Game, it was shown that while playing games, gamers' brains are very active in developing their tacit knowledge.
Existen diferencias en la actividad cerebral que se ven claramente de una persona que hace esto de forma profesional.
El aficionado está activando el cerebro con mucha más intensidad. Las áreas motoras, las áreas que implican el movimiento de las manos, están muy activas en el experto.
Furthermore, this film tells the story of a professional race car driver who started out playing video games. It showcases the many positive aspects of esports. For example, esports can develop a youth community and have become a distinct industry similar to other sports. In South Korea, professional players earn an average salary of $150,000.
The intelligence market say the average salary of the League of Legends player in South Korea, the average is $150,000.
Unfortunately, rather than focusing on becoming professional gamers who maintain healthy diets and sleep schedules, more and more gamers are becoming addicted to gaming.
I mean, I was gaming 16 hours a day. I was very depressed, very anxious, got out of high school, never graduated.
16 hours a day?
Yes.
The World Health Organization, WHO, categorizes addiction to games as a mental disorder through the International Classification of Diseases, ICD, 11th edition, which was released in 2022. In addition to gaming, the ICD-11 reclassified gambling as a mental disorder due to the rise of online gambling.
The receptors in the brain, when somebody is gambling, is actually very similar to what one gets from a cocaine high.
Gambling, which was once limited to casinos and certain venues, has spread to smartphones and is now accessible anywhere and at any time. With gaming and gambling now in the same category as drug addiction, treatment options will range from strong family support to psychological consultations to rehabilitation.
Families in general don't always see it as an addiction. They see it as somebody who is weak-willed, somebody who has lost their way in a sense, but they don't generally know that one can get help. They think they just need to stop it.
If we go back to the early days of information theory's discovery, Claude Shannon certainly never thought his work would lay the groundwork for a destructive addiction.
I often wonder if Claude Shannon understood how much information there would be after his many discoveries. I've wondered, did he understand that we would have this information explosion? That in the last couple of years we've generated more information than the sum of all of human history.
Shannon's interest in games and art inspired his discoveries, allowing us to live more joyfully and happily, like him, instead of living in depression and addiction. Likewise, Edward Ossoff is interested in information theory. His interest is not an addiction. Rather, it motivates him to expand his knowledge by studying the science behind games.
I wasn't really in there to get rich. I was in there to deal with interesting math problems that kept coming up. So I enjoyed that. Do what you love and the money may follow, and if it does, that's fine. If it doesn't, you're still doing what you love.
Knowledge is essential for decision-making, problem-solving, progress, and innovation. This is especially true of tacit knowledge that cannot be faked through cheating. So, in answer to the question posed at the beginning of this video, have humans been surpassed by AI? We probably already know the answer. Will we use AI to expand our knowledge? Or will we let AI do all the work so we can continue scrolling, gaming, and gambling?